Let's take a look at Benjamin Moore's Lake Placid, which is a beautiful, soothing blue paint color that I want to talk about. And hopefully you want to hear about it. Before I dive into some of the details on some other paint colors that go with it, I got to reinforce the importance of testing your colors out. And to this day, our favorite method of testing is using Mighty boards. They're awesome large paintable tester boards that are uniquely resistant to warping and bending and just give you an excellent interpretation of a paint color without having to put it on the wall itself. I'll leave their information down in the description below if you want to pick some up yourself. So today we're cracking the code on color code 827, which is known as Lake Placid. We've been looking at a lot of gray paint colors recently, mainly because of their popularity, but I think it was about time to look at a powdery blue that can provide you with a very different look inside your home. My focus today is going to be on using Lake Placid as an interior color. Not to say that you can't paint the outside of your home with it, it's just going to give you a very specific, perhaps maybe polarizing look that may not serve the greatest amount of people. Do you know if you're the type of person that would like a baby blue house? And if that's you, love that. So the first thing I want to answer is how light or dark is Lake Placid, especially compared to other popular paint colors out there. I guess we wouldn't call it a dark color. In fact, it is on the lighter side of the middle, I guess. If you check Benjamin Moore's website, we can see that its LRV is 64.8, and this actually puts it in the top third of lightness, I guess, for most paint colors. I say that because Benjamin Moore paint colors usually range from maybe a 2 LRV all the way up to a 93 LRV. So in that respect, anything above 60 is in that light chunk of colors. Once you get to the low to mid 60s, you start to get into versatile territory because anything darker may stand out a little too much for some people. And on the flip side, as you get lighter and lighter and lighter into the 80s, your paint colors begin to lose saturation and they can feel washed out at times where there's a lot of light coming. You've probably noticed this when you're comparing 2 or 3 different off-whites and one looks a little more greeny and the other looks a little more beigey, but then you paint your bright open hallway with any of them really, and suddenly all of those subtle undertones you were debating and mulling over, they're just kind of gone. You won't have that problem with Lake Placid because it still feels pretty saturated even for a color that is in that lighter chunk of colors. But what kind of color is it? It looks a bit blue, but also feels a bit toned down with gray. I sort of classify it as a muted periwinkle blue because there is that slightest amount of purple that comes from a tiny red undertone within the color. This gives it a little more complexity than a simple baby blue, and it feels a little more soothing to me because of that, and also pairs a bit better with other colors that share a red undertone, like taupe and brown, for example. As far as use cases are concerned, Lake Placid, not necessarily a main color to me, but it could be to you. If you really like a more chilled out yet contemporary or transitional feel, there could be occasions where this would be your hallway color in your home or your main living area paint color as well. So kitchen, family room, sort of shared space, I guess. It's certainly light enough where the space will feel open and airy. And I guess one of the main factors you'd have to consider is how well it goes with your flooring and maybe your furniture and cabinets, because those are likely going to be there after you finish painting, so you want to make sure they're cohesive. Let's talk color pairings here. And we have 4 of them that create an admittedly funky color palette that plays with opposites. To start things off, we have the rather conservative Gray Mist as the light color option. And Gray Mist is described as being a hushed grayish with a nearly 73 LRV, making it lighter and quite clearly the warmer color next to Lake Placid. Funny enough. It's not warm enough where it'll feel like a polar opposite paint color, but it's designed to accentuate the other by fading into the background a little bit. Sometimes you want your paint colors to do that, where they just become a little bit of a second fiddle, you know? They're just sort of in the background. Bit of an empty canvas, neutral color. Although Gray Mist is primarily that combination of gray and beige, there is also that hint of brown, which is loosely tied to the reddish purple in Lake Placid, so there is that connection, technically, but that's also a bit of a stretch. Gray Mist is the option for those of you that are wanting to use Lake Placid as an accent, and we're looking for a neutral to carry through the rest of the home. That's where I can see these colors coexisting rather easily. I've also seen people use accent colors on the 3 walls, and then the neutral color becomes the 4th feature wall, which sort of flips the script a bit. So literally you can have 3 Lake Placid walls and then a Gray Mist feature wall. Kind of weird, but it works. If you want to use Gray Mist as a trim and baseboard color for Lake Placid, it wasn't necessarily my intention behind choosing it, to be honest. We will get to my ultimate trim color for Lake Placid a bit later on. Our second color pairing truly makes Lake Placid look soft and neutral. It out-accents the accent. I was loosely inspired by this beautifully patterned rug in this photo, but I want to feature a little more of the red in Lake Placid's undertones versus that bubblegum magenta pink found here. Still really vibrant. It's tender pink, which is a slightly fiery, dusty rose that combines pink with gray, a little bit of orange, and brown. It's almost taking a little baby step towards clay in how it's colored as well, but it's still cementing itself as the most dynamic color in this video. Really, really is. Very much the stylized choice, especially if you're using it on the walls. It would really suit a more modern and contemporary design. Something a little more funky, maybe boho, but you can also be inspired by it and use it in some of your accessories or your pillows or a little area rug like the one in the picture. Something about these overly saturated color hues make me want to continue them onto the baseboards for some reason. So I feel like keeping your surrounding trim and woodwork a pristine white could try and force a more traditional sort of layout and aesthetic, which begs the question, is there anything traditional about this pink? I don't really think so. So if you were using it on your walls, my hunch would be to use it on the trim as well. Just in those areas though. The color to help ground all these colors together is almost black, which essentially describes what it's trying to do. It's almost black, but not quite. It really feels immensely rich and saturated with an LRV around 9. But that is not quite as dark as some of the other 2 or 3 LRV black paints that exist. It's nice because it feels closer to slate gray with just a touch of brown to give it an earthy quality. Although depending on your lighting, this could really impact how warm or cool it ends up feeling in your space. Finally, we have our trim color, which is the white color pairing. And what's great about it is it's one of the cooler bright whites that exist. It has an 88 LRV, which is near the top of the end brightness wise, and it has a subtle blue-gray hue to it, which can pacify any coolness found in almost black. So that's another benefit too. The white paint color is called Distant Gray, and it's probably my favorite choice whenever I'm looking for a cool leaning white, which will suit Lake Placid very, very well. Check this out if you want to learn more about paint colors and how they go together.